Greetings, dear ones. I am Kryon of Magnetic Service. So the subject of this short channel is the solstice. The solstice is an interesting thing. It carries a great deal of energy. And yet the energy is not truly very well defined. You would say, perhaps, well, it is. We know all about what the solstice is. And I would say to you, really? Have you looked at what the ancients have said the solstice is? And you would say, well, some of them. And I will tell you this, depending upon which ancient you look at, if they have described what it meant to them, they're all different. Indeed, the energy that the solstice carries seems to be culture-specific. One culture, it's cosmology. To the Mayans, it meant one thing. To the Egyptians, another. It did not carry an energy that was common to all except one. And even then, only half the planet participated. Fertility. Moving into the area of times when things grow. Well, not all over the world, but enough. And so often the solstice was a renewal time. But that's where it really stops. There are some who will say, totally, that the solstice is a celebration of male energy. Go back and check it out. Perhaps you have heard, well, it's just celebrated a goddess energy. Well, which one is correct? Others have completely different ideas of what the solstice might mean to the planet. What energy would it truly carry? Now, here's a premise for you to think of. What if this cosmos event, where the earth is tilting toward the sun in a specific way, what if there is no generic energy? And you'll say, wait a minute, in astrology there has to be. What if it changes due to the consciousness of the planet? Now that doesn't sit well with a lot of people. They want it to mean something and always mean something. This really does open a subject, does it not? Is it possible that the changing consciousness of the planet can also change the definitions of many things that you thought you knew about? I'll leave that to you, dear ladies. I want to tell you something. I will give you my something of what this means to you right now. There used to be a time when I would open these particular channels with another greeting. And that other greeting would be one that would tell you that these particular channels were sequestered only to women. Now that time has changed. So you might understand that things perhaps are changing in general, and that perhaps that which you would expect to be just for you is now for everyone, but you might understand it better, ladies. I think you will. Here is my take on the energy for you of the solstice. For years, we've been giving messages for the sisterhood. They're dear ladies, I would say. I am Kryon. And all of these years, there would be actionable items, and that means there was something to do. There was something to think about. There was something to review. There was something to examine. And so almost every single channel had me reminding you of something. We talked about that which you might remember from your Akash and who you were and how it fit into who you are today, but you still had to examine it. What if I told you that this particular solstice is an end to the examination until another event happens? But this one, it's an invitation to end the action and start the nourishment. There's a concept. And what might it mean? The shift is causing a great deal of change on this planet. But as much change as it is causing that you can see on the news and see for yourself as you look out the window, there's a lot more change happening when it comes to those who have a sacred Akash, to those who have tuned in to where they might have come from, or what they are now continuing to study that they hadn't seen or studied for thousands of years. There are those on the planet who are picking up where they left off from the seeds that were planted so long ago. If this is you, this is for you. This is for you. The idea that self-examination, for now, is starting to move into nourishment. Have we told you how much Spirit loves you? Or what might be there for you? We tell you all the time. Those who are in the circle of 12 will experience something coming up. For next month, I want to reflect this very thing in the circle of 12, where action is going to stop for a while and nourishment is going to start. What does that mean, Kryon? What is the difference between the action and the nourishment? And I will tell you, in this case, this solstice will mark a demarcation where you're going to start feeling us pour things to you. It's time to be nourished, ladies, in love, information, understanding. Think of the questions that you have been asking, even as in a sisterhood. What are the teachings of Mele'ha? What are the questions that you ask constantly? What if suddenly they have answers all pouring to you that are automatic? That's nourishment. What if in your sleep, in your meditations, you start getting the answers to why you're here? And if it is done correctly and you receive it correctly and not with a filter, you'll be so thankful and gracious. How many of you can wake up in the morning with gratitude? Before you even put your feet on the floor, gratitude of being nourished by Spirit to the extent that you don't worry, to the extent where you don't fear. That's the nourishment we speak of. How many of you can wake up with an attitude of graciousness, or being in gratitude for what might happen that day that will bring you closer to what you've been asking for? The healing, both emotionally, relationships, in the body. How many of you can wake up with that kind of gratitude? With a knowledge that you are being nourished daily by Spirit and the love is thick. And the angelics around you, perhaps, and the elements and the elementals all know your name. That you're not afraid to walk anywhere because it's safe. Metaphysically, you're not afraid to look at anything or have anything mysterious. because it's for you and it's safe. There are so many who question everything. Was I this? Am I this? How do I do this? Where am I going? And it often falls upon the leaders and the teachers then to instruct you and tell you, what if that's starting to shift and change? And if it does with you, you're starting to understand what the shamans had, which made you want to be with them, the peace that they had, what the masters had. That is what I wanted to tell you. There's a shift going on, ladies. The shift from action to nourishment. Will you be one who understands this? One who accepts it? Will you be one who continues to ask questions and ask questions, never understanding that there are a plethora of angelic beings waiting to fill you with answers and love, and you will relax in all things, and you will understand, be still, know that you are a piece of God. I'm crying in love with you all, and so it is.